When most people hear the name Medellin, they still think about its troubled past. For decades, the city carried one of the darkest reputations on earth, a name synonymous with cartels, violence, and a homicide rate that, at its peak in 1991, exceeded 380 deaths per 100,000 residents, among the highest ever recorded for any city in modern history. Today's Medellin tells a very different story. Modern neighborhoods, incredible nightlife, mountain views in every direction, cable cars connecting hillside communities to the rest of the city, a place that has reinvented itself in ways almost nobody thought possible 30 years ago. So, what is life really like in Colombia's most famous city? Why is Medellin suddenly one of the fastest growing destinations for remote workers in all of Latin America? Is it actually safe today? What makes the nightlife so famous? And what does everyday life actually look like beyond the highlight reel? The answer starts with one of the most remarkable urban transformations anywhere in the world. Few cities anywhere have changed their global image as dramatically or as quickly as Medellin. The numbers tell the story with brutal clarity. In 1991, Medellin's homicide rate peaked at over 380 per 100,000 residents, a level of violence almost impossible to comprehend from the outside. Today, that rate sits under 20 per 100,000, roughly comparable to cities like Baltimore or New Orleans in the United States. In 2024, the city recorded its lowest number of homicides in more than 40 years, just 310 total, across a metro area of more than 3 million people. That's not spin or tourism board marketing. It's a documented, sustained, multi-decade transformation. Part of that transformation is physical, and you can see it the moment you arrive. In the early 2000s, many of Medellin's hillside comunas, dense, low-income neighborhoods climbing up the mountains surrounding the city center, were effectively cut off from the rest of the city. A commute that should have taken 20 minutes could stretch into hours. The city's answer was the Metro Cable, an urban cable car system integrated directly into the metro network, connecting those previously isolated hillside communities to jobs, education, and the rest of the city in a fraction of the time. It's now widely considered one of the cornerstones of Medellin's broader transformation. Not just a tourist novelty, but genuine functioning infrastructure that reshaped how the entire city operates. Today, Medellin is regularly ranked among Latin America's most innovative cities, recognized for urban planning approaches that other Latin American cities now actively study and attempt to replicate. But the biggest surprise for most first-time visitors isn't the skyline, the cable cars, or the statistics. One of the main reasons people fall in love with Medellin has almost nothing to do with nightlife, culture, or any of the things that usually headline a travel video. It's the climate. Sitting in a valley at roughly 500 meters elevation in the Abura Valley, Medellin maintains a remarkably consistent temperature year-round, typically somewhere between 21 and 24 degrees Celsius, warm during the day and pleasantly cool at night, with no real need for heating or air conditioning at any point in the year. There isn't really a winter or summer in the way most of the world experiences seasons. There's just a wet season and a dry season, layered on top of a climate that barely shifts month to month. Locals call it the City of Eternal Spring, and once you spend even a few days there, it's easy to understand exactly why. The mountains that surround the city on all sides create a sense of enclosure and scale that's hard to find in most major urban centers. Green spaces and outdoor cafes take full advantage of weather that simply never forces anyone indoors. It's the kind of climate that makes an entire outdoor lifestyle possible almost effortlessly. Rooftop terraces, sidewalk cafes, parks that stay full of people late into the evening, all made possible by weather that essentially removes one of the biggest constraints most cities have to plan around. But once the sun goes down, Medellin reveals a completely different side of its personality. Nightfall is when this city truly shows what it's become. El Poblado is the neighborhood most visitors land in first, and it's easy to understand why. walkable, polished, and absolutely packed with restaurants, rooftop bars, and nightlife options for nearly every taste. At the center of it sits Parque Lleras, which pulses with activity essentially every night of the week, drawing both tourists and locals into a dense cluster of clubs, bars, and international restaurants. Provenza, technically part of the broader El Poblado area, has evolved into something distinct, a gastronomic and colliving district where boutique restaurants, specialty coffee shops, and co-working spaces blend naturally with the nightlife happening just a few doors down. It's not uncommon to find people working from a cafe in the afternoon and dancing at the same intersection by midnight. The nightlife here is energetic, but what surprises a lot of first-time visitors is just how diverse it actually is. It's not only nightclubs. Live music venues cover everything from traditional Colombian genres to electronic music and international hip-hop. Street performers work the busier corners of El Poblado and the historic center. Rooftop bars overlooking the mountain-ringed valley offer a completely different pace than the dance floors below. Some neighborhoods, particularly around Parque Lleras, stay genuinely lively well into the early morning hours, with language exchange events drawing hundreds of people weekly. One of the largest such gatherings anywhere in Latin America, regularly bringing together 500 or more locals and foreigners at a single venue. But what surprises visitors most about Medellin isn't actually the nightlife at all. Ask visitors what they remember most after leaving Medellin, and an overwhelming number give the same kind of answer. And it's rarely about a building or a view. It's the people. Colombians from the Antioquia region where Medellin sits identify as paisas, and paisa culture carries a reputation across Colombia for warmth, hospitality, and a particular kind of directness that visitors consistently describe as immediately disarming. Strangers offer directions without being asked twice. Conversations with shop owners and taxi drivers turn personal quickly. Family remains central to daily life in a way that shapes everything from Sunday routines to how long business lunches tend to last. Medellin is often associated, fairly or not, with attractive people and a strong fashion culture, a stereotype that shows up constantly in how the city gets discussed online. But ask the people who actually spend real time there rather than just a long weekend, and the quality they describe most consistently isn't appearance, it's warmth. It's the sense of community that runs through neighborhoods like Laureles and Envigado, where local restaurants serve daily lunch specials called corrientazos that include soup, a main course, juice, and sometimes dessert, all for under $4. Served in places that have never bothered printing an English menu because they were never built for tourists in the first place. That sense of genuine welcome is one of the most consistently cited reasons travelers end up extending trips that were originally planned for a few days into several weeks or longer. Tourists aren't the only people arriving in Medellin these days, and they're not even the most consequential group reshaping the city. Medellin has become one of the most significant digital nomad hubs anywhere in Latin America, with some estimates suggesting the city welcomes over 8,000 new remote workers every single month. The reasons are concrete and practical, not just lifestyle marketing. Fiber internet across the main expat neighborhoods regularly delivers speeds over 200 megabits per second, available in co-working spaces ranging from budget options around $40 a month to premium spaces with private offices and full amenities. A comfortable, by no means extravagant monthly budget for a solo remote worker typically runs somewhere between $200 and $800, covering a furnished one-bedroom apartment in Laureles or Envigado, regular meals out, transportation, and entertainment, a fraction of equivalent costs in most North American or Western European cities. The country's specific digital nomad visa, requiring proof of roughly $1,000 in monthly income and basic health insurance, has made longer stays considerably more accessible and more legal than the tourist visa workarounds many remote workers relied on in the past. For many people arriving from far more expensive cities, Medellin offers an unusually appealing combination. a genuinely pleasant year-round climate, a real and growing community infrastructure, with regular meetups, group runs, and co-working events specifically built around connecting newcomers with both expats and locals, and a cost of living that allows people to actually live well rather than constantly compromising on a modest income. But life here, for residents and long-term visitors alike, isn't without real friction. Like every major city experiencing rapid change, Medellin has genuine challenges that are worth being honest about rather than glossing over. The most immediate is cost pressure in the most popular neighborhoods. El Poblado specifically has premiumized significantly since 2020. Rents in the most desirable streets near Parque Leiras now frequently run between $900 and $1,100 a month for a decent furnished apartment. A substantial jump that has narrowed the cost advantage Medellin once held over more expensive Latin American cities. Many longtime residents and even earlier wave expats describe El Poblado as increasingly homogenized, pushing people who want a more distinctly Colombian experience toward neighborhoods like Laureles, Envigado, or Belén instead. Safety, while dramatically improved overall, still requires real awareness rather than blind confidence. El Poblado, Laureles, and Envigado combined account for only about 13% of the city's total homicides, despite hosting the overwhelming majority of foreign visitors and residents. A genuinely reassuring statistic. But petty theft, scams, and a specific and serious risk involving scopolamine drugging, estimated at around 50,000 incidents annually across the country, frequently connected to dating apps, mean that the standard advice from experienced long-term residents is consistent. Stay alert, stick to established venues, never leave a drink unattended, and exercise the same basic street awareness you'd want in any large, unfamiliar city. Tourism pressure itself has become its own subject of local conversation, with rapid foreign arrival in specific neighborhoods visibly reshaping prices, business types, and even the character of streets that were primarily residential just a few years earlier. A tension that shows up in plenty of major global cities experiencing similar nomad-driven growth, not something unique to Medellin alone. Understanding these contrasts, the dramatic safety improvement alongside real ongoing risk, the affordability alongside rising costs in the most popular areas, is exactly what makes Medellin such a genuinely fascinating place to actually spend time in, rather than just photograph. So why do so many visitors, after one trip, find themselves planning a return before they've even left? It's rarely one single thing. It's the combination: mountain views from nearly every elevated point in the city, a food culture built around arepas, empanadas, and bandeja paisa that feels genuinely distinct from the rest of Latin America, live music that ranges from traditional paisa folk traditions to some of the most active electronic and hip-hop scenes on the continent, and a year-round climate that removes the seasonal planning most travelers are used to. Comuna 13 captures this combination as well as anywhere in the city. Once one of Medellin's most dangerous neighborhoods marked by gang activity and displacement during the worst years of the conflict, it has transformed into an outdoor gallery of street art and graffiti, with guided tours now walking visitors through murals that directly depict the neighborhood's own history of violence, resilience, and recovery. It's simultaneously one of the most moving and most photographed experiences in the entire city. A literal physical representation of what Medellin as a whole has tried to become. Modern infrastructure, the metro, the cable cars, reliable fiber internet, walkable neighborhoods, makes daily life genuinely functional in a way that surprises visitors, expecting something closer to the city's old reputation. And everyday life itself, away from the curated highlight reel, looks like locals eating $4 lunch specials, families filling parks on weekend afternoons, and a level of civic pride in the city's transformation that comes up constantly in casual conversation with paisas, almost regardless of who you ask. Medellin isn't defined by its past anymore. It's defined by its demonstrated ability to reinvent itself, and by the fact that the reinvention is still visibly actively continuing. Medellin is a city of contrasts, modern yet deeply traditional. Relaxed in its pace of daily life, yet genuinely energetic after dark. Surrounded on all sides by mountains, yet thoroughly connected to a global community of remote workers, travelers, and returning visitors. A place still carrying the visible scars of a violent past, yet one of the clearest examples anywhere in the world of what sustained urban transformation can actually look like over 30 years. Whether you come for the nightlife, the culture, the famously perfect weather, or simply to experience everyday Colombian life away from a five-star hotel, one thing becomes clear fairly quickly. Medellin is far more than the stereotypes, old or new, that have ever defined it from the outside. Would you visit Medellin? And if you've already been, what surprised you most about Colombia's most famous city? Let us know in the comments. This is exactly the kind of place where everyone seems to walk away with a completely different favorite memory.